What's up, Bears fans? It's time for another edition of Know Your Opponent. Week 10, the Chicago Bears return home to face off against the New York Giants. And joining me here on the Bear Report podcast, Nick Falato of Big Blue View and Big Blue Vanter. Nick, first off, man, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, Zach, we're here talking shop. We're in a nice Week 10 game with the pretty good-looking Chicago Bears against these New York Football Giants. That's just they're not as good-looking. I'll tell you that much right now.
They've had some moments this year. From what I've seen, they've had some positive moments, particularly the Thursday night game against Philadelphia a couple weeks back. But 2-7 New York Giants. What were kind of your thoughts about this team going into the year? Because when I saw their draft class and what they were doing, I thought there could have been a lot of excitement. I still think there is. Did you expect it to be a little bit of a rough year? What did you kind of expect coming into this season?
I predicted 6 wins for the team with a positive energy possibly going forward. Russell Wilson getting benched by about week 4 or 6, I think is what I said, which tracked, right? That was congruent with reality. And then hopefully Jackson Dart showing some sign of development and progress. And I got to say, from that perspective, that has been knocked out of the park. If there's anything positive to take away from the New York Giants in 2025, it's the play of Jackson Dart. He's been very exciting. What happened to Cam Scadaboo, Malik Neighbors, that's very unfortunate. This kid still, he's throwing the football to little Jordan Humphrey and Ray McLeod, who the Giants just signed off of free agency or something and promoted from the practice squad. So it's rough for him around him, and the defense can't fit the run, and the defense has a lot of talent on it. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But the fact that he is comporting himself in the manner that he is on and off the football field, it's something that Giant fans are excited about, albeit it's still a bleak season.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about, Jackson Dart through 9 games. He hasn't started all the games, but through 9 games this season, from what I've seen, I like it. He's surprised me. I think if they were to redraft right now, he'd probably go number 1 overall. What have you seen from him? What gives you excitement about him moving on in the future?
Yeah, he's calm. He's poised. He does not hang on to his first read often. He very active eyes, the ability to extend plays behind the line of scrimmage and have this overall innate feel for pressure. And I want to knock on wood as I say that, because he did get clobbered last week, and then that can still happen. But when he is extending plays, he keeps his eyes downfield, and he seems to understand where his blockers are and how to maximize the blockers that are back there to create more time. Feel like he's done a solid job discerning with his legs, using it. I want him to get down a little bit sooner, just because he plays with a lot of grit and he'll over his head sometimes. I'm like, let's not do that. Okay, it's not going to be the best thing for your longevity here, Mr. Jackson Dart. But yeah, and then there's the arm talent too. It's he doesn't have elite arm talent, I wouldn't say. He's not like Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen, but he's under that, and he's showing the ability to pace the football over the middle of the field, put touch on it. His ball placement has been very impressive. He put a dime on the outside shoulder of Darius Slayton last week, and it was punched out. And then 2 plays later, he hits Gunnar Olszewski, cover 3, split in the deep thirds on the front side shoulder, forcing Olszewski to turn around away from Khan. It was a very high level throw, and he's making plays like that, Zach, that I think just rally the fan base, right? It just is unfortunate because of all the losing, but yeah, he has not disappointed. He has exceeded the expectations of the general. I don't want to speak for all Giant fans, but I think he has exceeded the expectations. It's safe to say that.
Well, what can he work on? What's next for him? What are you seeing that maybe besides not sliding often or things like that are kind of making you go, if there is any concerns?
Yeah, I think it. So when you do extend plays, you're naturally going to hold on to the football a little bit too long. And there might be some solutions, but you might still try to look for that big play that might not be there. So holding on to the football a bit long is something that I feel like could be developed, and it could also, crop its ugly head up sometimes. But when he does that, he also has this ability to get out and make the explosive plays that he has created. So it is kind of a catch-22 situation. But holding on to the football, I would say, is the too long is probably the number one thing that is on my mind when it comes to Jackson Dart and things that he could work on, I guess.
Look at the Giants offense. They get a Bears defense that was shredded. Joe Flacco threw 470 or something like that on them, 4 touchdowns. How do the Giants attack this Bears defense? And then to kind of flip it, how can the Bears defense take advantage of, how can they slow down the Giants, I'd say?
Slow down the Giants. I mean, I'm not too familiar with the Bears defense and what exactly you guys do. I watched the offense for the preview, but I would say try to simulated pressures, try to get Jackson Dart off of his game from that perspective, try to manipulate the protection, which Carmen Brasillo, the Giants offensive line coach, has done a good job this year, getting that group ready to play. You could run man coverage, you can run zone because the receivers are not necessarily going to be overly dynamic. I think Wan'Dale Robinson is a tricky guy to cover out of the slot, and he's hard to tackle, but he's a limited player down the football field with one of the shortest arm radiuses to ever play in that wingspans to ever play in the National Football League. So there's not a ton of talent. You just really got to, I would say, try to contain Dart as best as you can within the pocket. Maybe, tepid rushes by some defensive linemen. You push up field. If I'm not winning, I'm going to stand back and I'm flowing with this guy, and I'm not going to allow him to be, and I'm going to keep him centralized in the pocket, right? So you try to contain Jackson Dart from that standpoint. You got to be on your P's and Q's with the RPO game. That's a big part of this offense. And, yeah, I would say you could really run the gamut of man coverage or zone coverage and just changing that up on the back end to try to confuse a young quarterback who is still developing.
Where's the weak spot on the offensive line for the Giants? Where would the Bears go at? Bears have had some trouble rushing the passer, but they still have Montez Sweat, so it's not like, it's just any random guy. But where's the weak spot?
Yeah, so it looks like Jermaine Illuminor is going to be starting this game from what I've collected. I don't think that's being confirmed, but if Jermaine misses the game like he missed in week 9, that would put Marcus Bowe in at right tackle, and that would be a massive spot for Montez Sweat to pin his ears back after Bowe. Bowe's a solid rookie, but he's a rookie. Struggles with power, struggles with anchoring up the arc through that outside shoulder, and that was exposed last week in week 9. By the San Francisco 49ers. So that would be it. But say Jermaine Illuminor plays. Jermaine Illuminor is a competent, good starting tackle. I think a pec or a neck injury. It was an upper body thing. And then Andrew Thomas is a very good tackle. That's a hard guy to defeat. John Michael Schmitz, center. He's more than likely not going to play in this game. And that's going to put Austin Schlottman in there. Now, Austin Schlottman has played. He relieved John Michael Schmitz like 3 weeks ago, played the majority of one of the games, and looked good. So I don't think that's a massive step down, but he's still a backup player. And I think if you run a lot of twists and stunts, that could be a way. What I've noticed about the Giants offensive line is they very much struggle with big, long, physical defensive lines, relative to the rest of the NFL. I think Sweat could probably fit that. I don't know if Gervin Dexter developed in that coming out of Florida.
A
little bit. Yeah. So that could be one way. They don't really run block that well, so you can really shut them down from that perspective. But as for pass blocking, I would try to take advantage of the veteran center that's going to be in there. That's a backup, and that's Austin Schlottman.
All right. Flipping over. Looks like the Giants defense, like you said, there's talent. The run defense, probably not very good, it looks like. What do you expect? Is this a game where you're the Giants and you expect the Bears to, they're likely going to get DeAndre Swift back. So, and what Kyle Monangai did last week to try and run the ball a lot and get that set up.
Yeah, they're going to run the football like crazy and then hit play action passes. The Giants linebackers, they're not the most athletic, and they're very if they're going to be successful, they got to rely on their instincts and their ability to process what they're seeing. And I just feel like there's too much on their plate, especially when the Giants are going out there with even fronts. Like last week, they used a lot of, because they faced 21, 22 personnel and 12 personnel with the 49ers. They used a lot of like gap out 5-man fronts. I'm not sure how. I know the Bears, you guys have a very dynamic 11 personnel package, if I'm not mistaken, right? And your 12 is, if Komet plays, is. So I think the Giants still might match that 12 with the nickel. That could be the case. And if that's the case, you're going to have like open backside B gaps that can be hit. So I expect Ben Johnson to just get in his bag, attack outside with the New York Giants. They have struggled for weeks now defending cracked toss, right? Because once you get that edge block, the linebackers don't flow. 2 weeks in a row, the Giants have surrendered long touchdowns. The one was the second play of the game against the Philadelphia Eagles, 65-yard touchdown by Saquon Barkley. The opposing team that the Giants were facing, they would just overload either with a big offensive lineman or a double Y set, create a super strength to one side, and the Giants would shift their odd front to where the one technique was the furthest defensive lineman with an edge rusher outside the tackle. So you had this wide open B gap, and every time the Giants would overflow to that strength, creating this the backside, the will just never like had any integrity for that backside gap. And that was both Darius Muasau, who's likely not playing in this game, and Demetrius Flanagan Fowles had a mistake like that as well last game. That's that cutback lane could be open and it could be easily exploited by Swift or Monungai. I think the Giants are sick and tired, the players. Like Brian Burns had a comment today. I'm sick and tired of hearing about the run defense. But it is a massive vulnerability at all three. Like it's a collective thing. Like one guy doesn't do their job, and then this guy doesn't do the job. And you run at Tay Banks, he doesn't want to contact anybody. Tay Banks you're lucky if he doesn't surrender the outside to you as the secondary contained defender. Unfortunately, so it's a mess from that perspective. And the Giants should be getting healthier on the defensive side of the football, so it might solidify a little bit. But it was a problem at times, even when the Giants were fully healthy defensively.
Yeah, we've seen the last couple of weeks, Ben Johnson bring in the extra offensive line with Ozzie Trapillo, and you could just tell, okay, they're running the football to that side and try and stop it. And, Bengals couldn't stop it. Saints really couldn't stop it. Ravens did a little bit. But I guess what challenges could the defense present Caleb Williams? I know they have some pretty good pass rushers, but what is there anything else or what should Bears fans be looking at there?
Yeah, so the Giants defensive coordinator is rather vanilla. He's not very creative, as Spencer Rattler said prior to the game, and then Spencer Rattler lit the New York Giants up, and he got benched a couple weeks later. It was just, but so Shane Bowen is not a guy who's going to get overly creative. He's much more, I'm going to run my system, try to have all my run assignments married to my pass assignments, but he doesn't really throw a lot of curveballs at you. So the Giants, you're going to see, like, if I'm the Giants need to be efficient on first and second down. It's that simple, right? It's going to be difficult to do against this rushing attack, and especially since they can't stop the run. But you want to force the opponent into third and long situations to where you can get a little bit more creative with pressing the line of scrimmage, maybe running some sim blitz or sim pressures. And that's not like we have seen that this year, but I don't think it's why the Giants are having success with some of the sack numbers that they have, like Brian Burns having 10 plus sacks. It's much more like we're going to rely on our good players just to beat you. And that's one of my big gripes about this defensive coordinator. Because the Giants do have good players up front. Dexter Lawrence is having a down year, but he's still he's still one of the best defensive linemen in the league. It just hasn't necessarily translated this year. Brian Burns, the guy's going to be flying around the field the entire game, Zach. Like every game he plays hurt, leading by example, actually successful. Abdul Carter, Swiss Army knife. He's another very impactful player that hasn't gotten home yet, but you'll see Ben Johnson's going to know where 51 is a lot of the time. And then Kayvon is having a very good season. So those are your threats that you got to pay attention to, is that front. I'm sure you guys are going to create a lot of double teams and try to take advantage of the linebackers with the play action passing attack. And then the secondary is nothing to write home about. All right. Okay. Paulson Adebo might play. Paulson Adebo is a fine cornerback, but that's our cornerback one. And it's like behind that, there's big question marks. I'll say this. I'm not sure if Cordell Flott, I haven't seen the reports for Thursday, if he's out of the concussion protocol yet. But if he is, Cordell Flott is having a very good season, as is his second cornerback. But Roma Dunze, DJ Moore, you guys got some guys, right? You guys got some guys. If you want to win in man coverage, especially with the way Ben Johnson designs congested bunch, traffic, rubs, all that kind of stuff, you guys probably won't have too much of an issue doing that against the Giants fully healthy in the secondary.
Special teams wise, is there anyone we should pay attention to, particularly in return game? Bears special teams coverage has not been good. Over 30 yards per return against the Ravens, and then gave up the long one to the Bengals. Is there anyone we should know about there, or is it?
With special teams is so frustrating with the New York Giants, and I don't know if people outside of the New York Giants milieu, if they know what's happened with the kicker situation over the last few seasons with the Giants.
I know a little. Yep.
Okay. Graham Gano is 38 years old. He's an older guy, and he's always popping up on the injury report. And back in week 2, 2024 against Washington, it's like a big game, early in the season. Giants coming off a loss, playing Washington. Graham Gano pops up on the injury report on Thursday, and the Giants didn't promote Jude McAtamney from the practice squad from the International Pathway Program onto the active roster, and they allowed Graham Gano to play hurt. He got hurt chasing down Austin Eckler on a huge coverage return. And then the Giants played the entire game without a kicker, and they lost because of that. Earlier this year, a similar thing happened against the Kansas City Chiefs in the primetime game. The Giants played without a kicker. And since then, he's popped up on the injury report, and we had to promote that Jude McAtamney kid who missed 2 extra points, and the Giants ended up losing against the Denver Broncos in that historic comeback. And it's just like, oh my God, like they can't get out of their own way. And the only reason why I'm rehashing this is because yesterday, Graham Gano popped up on the injury report, so I have no idea what the new, and they have Young Wei Koo on the practice squad, so I would love to see him get promoted. I don't know what the Giants are going to do about it. It's been like a running joke among the Giants fan base, this kicking situation. So I just wanted to rant about that. Jamie Gillen, our punter, he's not a coffin corner type of punter guy. He has a big leg, but not the most accurate, can tend to give a lot of touchbacks as well. Coverage has been, I would say, overall good this year for the New York Giants, but recently it hasn't been as good. And as for the kick returners, funny that you asked that, Zach. Last week we put Jalen Hyatt back there. It's going to be Gunnar Olszewski. Gunnar Olszewski will be there. And then the Giants have rotated all of their top 80 picks who are busts that are athletic and can run fast in as the other kick returner. So it's been Deonte Banks, who you'll see him out there defensively more than likely, unless both the Debo and Flott are back. And you'll see like, great athlete, can stay in phase, can't do anything else. And no instincts at all, no ball skills, does not want to tackle. That's Deonte Banks. But he was returning kicks to provide value to the team because the Giants didn't want to put him out there before those injuries. And then Jalen Hyatt, who can't earn snaps at all offensively because he always gets rerouted and is never where he really needs to be. And he's just not, frankly, a physical enough player at the moment or a reliable enough player. So the Giants tried putting him there, I think, to drum up maybe some kind of trade interest if he did anything as a kick returner, because he hasn't returned kicks since high school, as he said. And there was no interest, and he's still a New York Giant, and he'll still dress and take up one of our roster spots, unfortunately. But yeah, the special teams has been a little frustrating. And I don't mind Michael Gabriel, our special teams coordinator, a young guy, comes over from the Jets, but it's execution a lot of the times. And then both the kickers right now, the Giant fan base is pretty frustrated with both of them.
Not an easy place to kick either this week at Soldier Field. So it could get interesting for you guys there. One more before I ask you for your prediction, but what's the vibe around Brian Daboll? What do you think's going to happen? What is kind of the vibes there in New York?
Yeah, he will be out of a job at the end of the year. I don't think the Giants will fire him mid-season because he is really tight with the general manager, and I think ownership does like him. But it's 2-7, 2-7, 2-7 at this point. He'll be fired on Black Monday. Brian Daboll, he's not going to be retained unless the Giants go on some kind of magical run. And it's, I would say, if I could describe the vibe of the Giants right now, it's deflated. They're very deflated. You can see it defensively in like the last two games in the fourth quarter. So many missed tackles, arm tackles. I don't want to say business decisions, but like with the Giants defense, like I'm not trying to question their effort, but it does just seem like they get stuck on blocks and they're good with like, oh, I have my gap, but they don't really make the play. You know what I mean? Like you can do your job defensively. That's like the bare minimum. But then there's also like, oh, I got to get up. I got to collapse. Like I don't see that through a full game of football from this defense. So that's a locker room issue. Daboll will be gone, to circle back to the question. And then it's interesting right now because you have beat reporters who are really dialed into the Giants organization, like Paul Schwartz of the New York Post. He's sending out story after story, basically putting out the narrative that Joe Schoen is going to keep his job. So, and that's something that that's our general manager. That's something a lot of Giant fans do not like because he has not done a great job. And I don't think the Giants coaching staff has done a great job developing the guys that they brought in. But at the same time, I don't think Joe Schoen has done all that great of a job developing a roster and providing depth for that coaching staff. So I think it's a collective rot right now in New York, or New Jersey, I should say. And it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. And if I had to guess, I'd say Schoen is retained and Brian Daboll will be fired.
Wow, interesting. Can you give us a prediction and an X factor on what you think is going to happen?
Okay, X factor. So I think the Bears are going to win this football game. Prediction 32-13 or something. 30, something like that, right? So I think the Giants will move the football offensively. They might bog down, might try to kick some field goals. Who knows who's doing that? It's windy down there. They're going to be missed field goals. I think Jackson Dart will be taking hits. I think he'll be able to move the football, though, against the defense overall because I think he's just that talented. I'm interested to see what the Giants do from a run game perspective with Devin Singletary and Tyrone Tracy Jr. Devin Singletary played more than Tracy. That doesn't really surprise me too much. Tracy had a really good rookie season, not so much this year. He made a comment after week 1, too, and then he ended up riding the bench the next comment about like running the football. That I don't know what's going on with him right now is what I'm trying to articulate. So I'd say the Bears win this game. X factor is I think it's your rushing attack. I think it's your outside rushing game. Yeah.
All right. Awesome. Anything you want to promote? Where can everyone find your work, listen to you, read you, all that good stuff?
Yeah, man. I'm at Big Blue View for my articles. And then for my podcast, it's myself and CBS's Dan Schneier. It's the Big Blue Banter podcast.
Awesome.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Zach. This was
Awesome.
fun.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.